Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm delighted to be joined by Hearts TV commentator and Scarfs Around the Funnel host Laurie Dunsire. Laurie, how is it going?
Very well. Yes.
Good.
Glad to be on.
Good. I'm glad to have you on. And as per usual, I will apologise to those people who have been waiting for us to start, and we're starting. I think 12 minutes later than we were planning to. I was running late originally, and then of course we entered some technical difficulties, so I had to move from my office down to my living room, and there does seem to be. I've got just a new internet provider. I won't bore people with the details, but I think I might need to look into getting a booster of some sort in my upstairs. So that's excuses out early. This evening, we're going to be discussing Hearts and Lothian's Premiership fixture with Ross County on Saturday afternoon, our top six hopes, and James Wilson's call up. But first, Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Now, we'll look back before we look forward. So James Wilson, we'll speak about the 18-year-old being called up to Scotland first. Laurie, how surprised were you when his name was included in the Scotland squad?
I was very surprised, to be honest, pleasantly so. But Steve Clarke hasn't been a big fan of maybe throwing younger players or untested players in. He's very much created a sort of club atmosphere with Scotland, which, to be fair, on the whole has been pretty successful for him in terms of using the same players, staying loyal to the same players. But it has meant that we've not seen an awful lot of, I guess, maybe left field players getting a chance or younger players getting an opportunity. So I was very surprised that he was called up. I know Steve Clarke himself said it's largely due to circumstances. He's got a lot of players missing, especially middle to front. But I think it's brilliant. I mean, I hadn't realised actually until today. I knew he would. I know it's unlikely he'll play. If he plays, I knew he would be the youngest ever Hearts Scotland international. Tommy Walker, currently the youngest. But I didn't realise till today that actually if he played, he would be the youngest ever Scottish international. I think John Lambie, currently the youngest. So I didn't realise until today. So I think that shows just how big an achievement it is. But I mean, he is an incredible talent. And I think what we've seen, especially since he's come in, is just how intelligent he is for a player of his age. I think you don't often see that, his ability to make the right runs, move into the right spaces, and his kind of link-up play and his overall intelligence. I think that's what I've been most impressed with. You see a lot of raw talent in teenagers when they come in, but often decision-making and things isn't there. With James Wilson, he's got for a guy who turned 18 last week, he's got a very experienced footballing head on his shoulders, I would say. So surprised he's in there, but delighted. And it's crazy to think. I think you posted this as well, didn't you? Or someone did anyway. That when James Wilson was born, Craig Gordon had already played 19 times for Scotland and had over 150 Hearts appearances. Now they're in the Scotland squad together.
Yeah, I know it's wild. It's very much too extreme because you're looking at James Wilson, and understandably everyone, all the focus is on that. But you still, I know within the Hearts support there is debates around the goalkeeper situation, but you still look at Craig Gordon and being in the Scotland squad at 42 and likely being the number one is still a massive achievement on that end. But yeah, to go back to Wilson, I was aware that he was going to be in the under 21s. I had the feeling he was going to be on the 21 side, and you're like, right, yeah, that makes sense. Pointless being him under 19s when he's playing Premiership football essentially week in, week out. But to get to find out that he was going to be in the first the national team squad when it got announced on was it Tuesday now? Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. Was a massive surprise, and it was one of those where I was kind of buzzing for him. I just think it's just such a cool achievement. Not long after 18, and yeah, I think it was Scott McLeish, Heart Stats, who tweeted out about him being the youngest. You'd be the youngest player ever for Scotland player ever. I think there was a wee bit of dubiety because of John Lambie, and that's because I've seen Barry did a piece earlier in the week, and I think he reached out to the SFA or the museum, someone at the Scotland Museum, just to kind of confirm that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did get a run out. See if it's difficult because we need to see how the situation is.
I was going to say it's not just a friendly to
try
things out, is it?
No, it's definitely not, and I don't think Steve Clark is a guy to hand out caps willy nilly. And the fact that it's two important games against Greece to retain like League A Nations League status is so there's something on the line for Scotland. But the fact that he is eligible for England, Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland, and you take into account how much potential and promise he has shown, that Steve Clark might turn around and go, right, you know what, let's just put him on for a couple of minutes, and that's him. That's him kind of sort up by Scotland. Yeah. But I spoke to him when I spoke to him interview for Heart Standard last month, and I didn't put it in the interview at the time because I was just kind of talking about his journey from getting the call when he was 15 on New Year's Eve to say that he's going to be training with the first team to now being an established first team star. So it didn't really fit in, but I asked him about because I knew he'd qualified for Northern Ireland, and asked him about his situation. And it was when he explained his dad's from Derry, so he qualifies for Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. His mum's from, I can't remember what he said in England, but his mum's from England, so he qualifies for England. But he said that, asked him kind of about how he felt. He was born in Scotland. He said he felt Scottish. So I think that's always been in his mind, even though he did play for Northern Ireland when he was, I think, at under 17 level once, maybe. Certainly turned out for them at once. But yeah, I don't think it's, even if he gets a cap, his appearance in the squad is clearly not a token gesture. Yes, there is injuries, but I think it just shows both him and Lennon Miller the belief and hope that the Scotland national team have in both of them. And like you said, and I think Graham from the Gorgie Boys podcast says, with every game he plays for Hearts, he just gets better. And I think the big thing is he learns. He's a really intelligent player. You mentioned that Neil Critchley's spoken about it, how he plays the game like an experienced pro. He's really perceptive to ideas. They worked on him with challenging for aerial balls. Okay, he's not going to win everything, but there's like timing your jump. There's putting pressure on the opposition defender. I think we've seen that over the last few years, last few games. That he's really improved. I think he'll get quicker. I think he'll get better and better. And his goal scoring, I think his goal scoring is very good. There are very few players who come on the scene at 17, 18 and immediately start scoring a goal every other game or whatever. That takes some time. And the fact that only Ryan Gauld scored more goals in the top flight than him before his 18th birthday says a lot. So yeah, it's class for him. And I suppose before we move on, I know neither of us are massive Scotland fans. We're very much club over country. But are you excited by it? Are you kind of more excited now with the games now that he's involved?
It certainly gives me more interest.
Yeah.
I won't pretend that the Scotland fixtures get me overly excited, especially the Nations League ones, even though I know that they actually serve teams like Scotland a lot better than the bigger teams. It's given the sort of middle teams more of an opportunity to qualify for bigger tournaments, so it's had its positives. But I certainly have more interest when there's a Hearts influence, and like you say with Craig Gordon as well, as much as you can debate his place in the Hearts team, whilst he keeps Zander Clark out of the Hearts team, there aren't much options ahead of him. You look at the team, and Liam Kelly and Kieran Slicker are the other two goalkeepers in it. So Craig Gordon's easily the pick of those. So it's almost like the Scotland the Scotland pick right now is largely in the hands of Neil Critchley and Hearts as well, because if Xander Clark starts getting back in and he's playing well and he's number one, then he's probably going to be the Scotland pick as things stand. So, yeah, certainly interested with those players in. I'm interested to see Lennon Miller if he gets a chance as well, because he is a talent. Whenever I've seen him, I think he's excellent. So it does give it more interest when you see players like that and Max Johnston and stuff coming in, just to see how they'll get on in games like this.
Yeah, I will. That is a couple of weeks. Well, a week on Sunday, the first game, or a week on Thursday, or a week today. I think it's a week today, and then a week Sunday's the second leg of that two-legged playoff. But now we will look forward to this weekend's game. I suppose we'll preview the match to begin with before looking at the bigger picture. You touched on elements which I'm going to ask you about on Scarce Around the Funnel. I thought you did a sterling job as flying solo. Done a much better job than me. It's not an easy one, but you made it sound easy. A lot easier than when I've garbled on for half an hour or so as trying to find my way from one sentence to the other. So it was a good listen, and there was no tangents for once in Scarce Around the Funnel.
Yeah, it's probably all those Hearts TV away games with just me sitting talking to myself that set me up for it. But yeah, thank you very much. I thought you did a good job, and so did Corbett on This Is My Story as well. So I thought I'll try and join the solo tribe.
Yeah, so sometimes they are fun because you know you're not going to get interrupted, but sometimes you could you do feel it's like, right, I've been speaking a lot, and it would be nice for someone to interject. But anyway. It's a massive game on Saturday, as we'll come on to discuss about the bigger picture of the race for the top six. But just in terms of the game against Ross County, before we get into talking about the team line, kind of team news and what you'd like to see happen, how are you feeling ahead of it coming in? I mean, it feels like ages ago since we had the game, having beaten Dundee on Friday night in the Scottish Cup.
I'm looking forward to it. Apart from anything, it's a Saturday 3:00, which is very rare these days for Hearts. So I want to make the most of that. And it's a fixture that I am looking forward to, because I think the fact that we lost to Hibs, it does tarnish a run. But we've only lost 2 in 13, so we're on very good form. It's just, and I get it. I'm the same. You lose a derby, it does matter an awful lot more than other games. But on the whole, we've been on a good run, and we have been playing fairly well. And even when we've maybe had games or spells we've not been playing well, we've reacted on the whole in a positive fashion, like we did against Dundee. So I'm looking forward to it. It is a massive game because there's only a point between the two sides. So I think, and we'll get on to it in a moment, I think these 2 home games before the split are huge for Hearts, and I'm pretty optimistic we'll win them. I'm looking forward to the Ross County game. I am very interested to see how we set up for it. I feel I want to see the diamond change with this game and with games coming up. Maybe it'll depend on if Cammie's back. I don't know if you've heard any more. I know right now it's still a kind of wait and see, and we'll get an update before the game. But yeah, I would like to see us adjust that.
Yeah, so I think that was that's the big thing I was going to ask, and I think that's probably the biggest. I think there's 2 talking points, 2 key talking points for the starting 11 is if Cammie Devlin is back fit, how do you arrange the midfield, and then well, it has a knock-on effect if you have the diamond, or if you don't have the diamond, the knock-on effect it has in the final third. So if Cammie Devlin is fit, because you're not dropping Benny Beningame. He's been absolutely tremendous. Like Cammie Devlin was tremendous, and then he went out, and then Benny's just stepped up, and he's been absolutely brilliant in recent weeks and with his performances. And I think when you play the diamond, he is the perfect number 6 for it because of the work he does out of possession and with the ball as well. So I gather that if both of them were fit, you would play them as a midfield too.
I think so. I mean, I think Benny's been fantastic, but equally, Cammie Devlin was in terrific form before he got injured. So I would absolutely play them both. I guess there are I could understand arguments for in a game like Ross County possibly that you maybe want someone who will carry the ball forward a little bit more in that home fixture if you have two of them in there, which is maybe why I could see arguments for Callum Neuenhoff, because he maybe does at least look forward a little bit more. And I think Cammy gets a raw deal with that sometimes. You know, he's not, just because he doesn't play defense splitting passes, or he's not a creator as such. I think he is more than just a ball winner. I think we've seen that a little bit under Neil Critchley. So there might be arguments for that, but I think it depends who you play around them. You know, if you're getting your wing backs or fullbacks forward and you've got 3/4 attacking options where whether you're playing 4-2-3-1 or the 4-2-4 or however you want to call it, the 4-4-2, if you've got two players either side of them who are going to get forward and you've got two decent attacking outlets ahead of them, then you don't necessarily need them to be, you know, Benny or Cammy to be cutting open defenses. So I would be happy with both of them in there. I would equally be happy with Benny and Neuenhoff if Devlin's not ready. And again, I know there's kind of fine margins between how you change that team between a 4-4-2 diamond, 4-4-2, because you're basically then just moving the players slightly wider in the midfield, or even a 4-2-3-1, because then it's just about, does a player in that front two sit in a number 10 role? But I think the 4-4-2 that is, I still feel is Neil Critchley's ideal setup, is how I would go with this. And I guess for me, the bigger question is, are you talking about playing Shankland in there? Because he got a lot of stick again, I noticed in the last game, but I actually thought he played quite well. And I think you've done a bit on it, or it was mentioned in something on the Heart Standard. He's just a different kind of player right now. He's not, especially with Cabangu in there playing as that spearhead, he's sitting very much as the 10, like he was. I kind of relate it more to that Ginnelly period when Ginnelly was up front. And he was involved in quite a lot against Dundee. And I think the problem is with Shankland, yes, the body language and certain things maybe have that. The optics aren't often great, and I get that, but I think these are only highlighted when Lawrence Shankland isn't in good form. And he's not been that type of player who has that energy and stamina, who's everywhere. He's, even last season, there was points in games where he was very shoulder slumped and looked frustrated. He gets very annoyed at himself in games. He gets very annoyed in how the game's going if he's not getting involved. So I've been a big critic of Lawrence Shankland at times this season. Right now, I feel he is offering something, especially with Cabangu in there. So I'd be interested to see what people's thoughts are, or what your thoughts are in the setup, because I think that's one of the big questions. And I'm also interested to know your thoughts on left back, because you probably noticed in the podcast I put Harry Milne in there.
So a few things. I'll start with Shankland. I feel that I feel at times on this I come across as Lawrence Shankland's unofficial spokesperson, but that's how highly I rate him. And I know this, people will listen to this and scoff and disagree and call me an idiot, or even stronger. Some of those might be true, but I think he's one of the first names on my team sheet at Hearts, and I think he's playing a different role, and even more different role to the one that he was playing with Ginnelly. I think he is essentially now, he's an out-and-out number 10 rather than kind of second striker he played with Ginnelly, especially when Hearts play that diamond. And I seen some of the criticism after the Dundee game, and it was only when I thought it was okay. I thought it was, he did well. It was only when I watched the game back on the Sunday, it really stood out to me how good he was. And then going back to like thinking about other games, and then looking at the data, because there's no point just I don't just like look at the data and then just like, right, that tells me everything. You have to balance them both. And while since the move to the diamond, while he's not been shooting or getting massive like great goal scoring positions, he has been involved and productive, even more productive as a number 10, because he is creating so many chances. One of the best forwards in the league in terms of creating chances for other players. And I get it with his demeanor and stuff. If he's scoring goals, people forget about it. But he's just that type of player. He'll show his emotions, and sometimes it doesn't look great from the stands. But when you break it down in terms of how involved he is in the build-up, how involved he is in creating space for others or creating chances or being that outlet that that players can look up and bounce a pass off him. I think if you were to not just ask Critchley, if you were to go around and ask the Hearts squad, I would take Benny, for example. Like, Benny, when you've got the ball, who do you like seeing in front of you? And I reckon one of the first names he'll say is Lauren Shanklin, because like Benny, Shanklin is one of the most intelligent football players in the squad. And I just think it would be. I know there's been a lot of there's been chat of playing Khartoum as number 10 instead of Shanklin. I think that would be madness to drop Shanklin, who I still think is Hearts. One of Hearts' most kind of best players. He's a completely different player at the moment to the one we saw, or the one we've seen in the last two seasons, scoring loads of goals. So, yeah, I very much, very much off the view that Shanklin plays, and that kind of leads me on to why I would stick with the dime. Not so much him playing as number 10, because I think he can do it with whether you play 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, if he plays like a second striker or a diamond. But the reason I would be more than happy with the diamond on Saturday is because I sometimes think in certain games, as much as I liked Benny and as much as I like Cammy Devlin, I think sometimes playing the both of them can be overkill. And against County, if you play the diamond and you play Benny, you get potentially 5 attacking players in front of him in Khartoum and Spittle and Shanklin, Kabangu, and then Wilson or Vargas. I wouldn't play the diamond at Celtic Park. Absolutely no chance. I would be bringing Devlin back in. And yeah, Devlin's trading this week, so I would expect him to be involved. But because of the way things have been going, you don't have to rush him back. I would certainly use him on Saturday at some point, get him back on the pitch, get some minutes in his legs, and then be ready to have him and Benny in the middle of the park against Celtic, where both of them they're much more kind of suited as a pairing when you go to Celtic Park.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in a lot what you said about Shanklin. I do. My caveat would be there have been times where I think he has deserved criticism, and I have thought,
oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I'm thinking even Easter Road, even just the game before this. I mean, his yellow card and then the supposed challenge on
Yes.
Iredale for the winner. So he has deserved stick at times, and I think sometimes
he's not helped himself.
He's not helped himself in games, but at the same time, I think that then carries on to other matches, and people hold those things against him and don't look at just the other game in isolation. And I thought against Dundee, he did contribute quite a lot. And yet, you're right with the diamond that there is even less impetus on going forward for him because he's got 2 players ahead of him at times. With Ross County, I guess I think back to the game in Dingwall, and yes, we think about the closing minutes and the capitulation, which how can you not? I thought about it for 3 hours on the way home. Couldn't get out of my head. But yeah. Before that, before the weather turned the pitch into a bog and before Hearts threw away 3 points, they were coasting in that game. They could have and should have been more than 2 up. And we played, that was a game where we surprised everyone, including me, by having Liam Boyce start in the number 10 role in the 4-2-3-1. And it worked really well. Yep. So that's partly why I was thinking, and it's maybe oversimplifying it, but County will play a similar system, the 3-5-2-ish that they like to play. And I thought that worked quite well in that game, so I'd be keen to see something similar. Maybe if you're not talking about Devlin, then again, maybe this will divide opinion. George Grant started in that game, and I thought he played very well for most of that game as well, if I remember rightly.
And
he has been playing. Again, people will pick specific games and moments for George Grant against him. I thought he has been playing reasonably well under Neil Critchley also. So that's maybe someone more progressive. So maybe a Grant or a Neuenhoff, like I say, in there, which will make it more progressive. So I guess the 2 questions I'll throw back at you, one that I did give you too many last time, but would you give Harry Milne a start and rest Penrice? Would James Wilson start for you? And if so, where's he playing?
Penrice, no, I'd play him. And the reason, I completely understand your reasoning, and I think it was very fair. See, if we're playing Celtic next week, I would have said yes, bring Harry Milne in and play him against County. But we've got a 2-week break, And I just think there's that opportunity to get him for him to rest up and get away or have a few days off or whatever. But I would like, at the very least, I would like to see Milne maybe brought off the if things are going okay against County or Penrith is struggling. Milne to at least be used off the bench just to at least kind of get him some minutes, get him his Hearts debut, and make it that Penrice is not playing another 90 minutes because in the...
Is he 2 yellows from another suspension?
2 yellows, I think it is, yeah.
He's had 10 in the league. I've forgotten what's the second?
12, yeah. So if he's got 10
12.
in the... Yes, it's 12 and they'll get a 2-game ban. So, yes, so I think even if it's getting to 70 minutes, because he usually... Now, I was going to pull this up just when you mentioned it. I think he's quite bad for getting yellow cards after the 75th minute, which...
Only, I mean, I'm looking at his yellows in the league. Yeah, 90 plus 3, 41, 83, 75, 87, 71, 89. So there's a few.
Oh, so that was early in the season, yeah.
His last 3 have been 16, 65, and 61, though, in the league.
Okay, well, we'll give him 59 minutes and then get him off the if he's playing, get him off the pitch. So Penrice, and then what was the other question?
Wilson.
Oh, yes, Wilson. Yes, I would play. I agreed with what you said about Vargas, and he can be really happy with his performance. If it's a diamond, I would be bringing Wilson back in. I would, again, it's just something as daft as he's been called up for the Scotland squad. Go out and just kind of take the acclaim, but also use that energy and get in. So I would absolutely play Wilson and Cabangu. And then the fact that you've got Vargas who's done well and that option off the bench, which he's been dangerous off the bench on occasion in the last few games as well. So you've always got that option as well. I suppose before we move on, I'll just throw one last question back to you because it was from Graham. Do we bring back Taylor or keep Forrester at right back?
For me, for this game, you keep Forrester.
Yeah.
They both have had question marks over them. Currently, I feel Forrester's got potential, and he's kind of had that typical teenager, which you often get with footballers coming in, where he has a great game, then he has a terrible game at times. But I thought he was fine against Dundee, and I thought Gerald Taylor looked horrendous at moments against Hibs. He did actually recover okay, and he was left really exposed. So I guess this is one of my concerns with the diamond is the fullback areas and how exposed they can be. Ross County will play with wing backs. I know they won't be as marauding as Hibs are, especially Easter Road. But if I'm Don Cowie and I'm Ross County and I'm looking at my game plan against Hearts, it's going to be to try and exploit those wide areas, exploit those gaps, because with the narrow diamond, you often have the fullbacks exposed 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 at times. So, and if I'm them, I'm probably going to be looking at Aaron Forrester because he's the less experienced and the more inconsistent of the fullbacks if Penrice is playing. So I would play Penrice. For me, the jury's very much out with Gerald Taylor. As things stand, I'd probably be sending him back, despite how promising he looked. I don't trust him, and I think he has rash moments in him, both in terms of his footballing decisions and the potential red mist. I still think we're going to see a 2-footer or a swipe from him and a red card to be shown. I can't believe he's not been sent off for us yet.
Yeah. So with Taylor, I would naturally go, he's been out for a while, so he's going to take time to get back up to speed, and obviously the derby wasn't an ideal place to do it. But then you go look back to the evidence we had before his derby, and he was inconsistent. I know for a fact that he is keen to stay at Hearts beyond the summer, but I mean, at the moment, I think it's safe to say it's difficult to see that, and because Forrester's kind of, you look at younger, longer term, you may as well kind of stick with him, but. Yeah, who knows what happens between now and the end of the season.
Now, I think we need a right back.
Yeah. I mean, I would not be surprised in the slightest if the right back was a priority area in the summer. Considering
Taylor's 24 in May, so it's not like he's a kid. So I'm not. He might do something between now and the end of the season, which completely changes my mind. But right now, that's where I am.
Yes, I think to change everyone's mind, I think you would have to be consistently excellent between now and the end of the season, or put in two incredible performances at Hampden as Hearts going to win the Scottish Cup, which would be fine. Happy to pay the money for him if that's the case. We'll move on to just finishing off on just discussing about the top 6 battle as it stands. We've got 4 games between now and the pre-split. Yeah, before the league splits into Hearts are currently sitting 7th. Got the league table up on the screen just there. You see Hearts in 7th, below Motherwell by a point ahead of Ross County, 2 points ahead of St Mirren. So I wrote something today. I very much see it as a 4-way battle across the next 4 games for that final spot. I think Hibs, Aberdeen and Dundee United have done enough to all but be sure of their place in the top 6, and so that's how it stands. And then I'll flash up the schedule for the 4 teams. Apologies for this daft branding that's right in the middle of it, but Motherwell's first game is at home to St Mirren, and then you'll see that they've got Aberdeen, Kelly, then Hearts have got County, Celtic, Dundee United, Motherwell. County have got Hearts, Dundee United, Aberdeen, St Mirren, and St Mirren, Motherwell, Kelly, Dundee and Ross County. Looking at that, I think Hearts probably have the most difficult of the schedules just because they're away to Celtic. Within that, you could probably argue between that and Ross County. But I look at it now and I think 9 points, just because of the goal difference. Hearts have got a far superior goal difference than other 3. That 9 points will all but certain will all but be certain that Hearts will be in the top 6, potentially 7. Laurie, how are you feeling about it, and what do you think Hearts need to do to ensure we are in top 6?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm agreeing with you on the teams. Kilmarnock are just, I think the fact Kilmarnock have Celtic away in their fixtures puts them in a very unlikely position to challenge for it. And you're right about Aberdeen and Dundee United. They could get drawn back into it, but unlikely. So I agree with the 4 teams. The fact we have Celtic means that realistically we are fighting for 9 points instead of 12. Obviously, if we somehow get something at Celtic Park, great, but it is unlikely. My feeling is, now I ran a few scenarios. I played out the last few fixtures. I played out what I think would happen. I played out best case scenario and I played out worst case scenario. I think it's likely that 7 points would be enough. I think it took a few surprise results to make 7 points not enough, bearing in mind that one of those would be taking points off Motherwell. So I should say, assuming that draws with Motherwell. So what I've assumed is Hearts need to win those 2 home games and it will be in their own hands. I couldn't find a way to make it not in Hearts' hands if they win those 2 home games going into that Fir Park game. If things go against us, Motherwell get a few big results, there's a potential that we would need to win at Fir Park. But the good thing is it will be in our hands because we're likely to be playing the team that we need to get above. So it won't be a case of we need to beat Motherwell and hope someone else wins. So I think the big thing for me is to win those 2 home games against Ross County and Dundee United, and then it is in our hands going to Fir Park. They are a bit of, I've not seen them yet under the new boss. I've just seen some highlights and some clips, so I couldn't comment on what they're like right now. So there is a little bit of an unknown. They maybe have got a bit of a bounce in the last, obviously a very good result at Ibrox as well, but will that carry on? I don't know. So I'm pretty optimistic, I have to say. I think we just need to make sure we do the business. Home against Ross County, home against Dundee United. My feeling is we'll go to Fir Park and a draw should be enough. But if it's not, we're playing the team that we need to overtake. And I think the way we are just now, I would actually be quite confident going to Fir Park needing a win, to be honest. The way we can play in transition, I think we would actually be pretty well set up. But as I say, that's caveated by the fact I haven't seen Motherwell fully under the new boss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as Graham says here, to have any chance of top six, this has to be 3 points, referring to the Ross County game. Just because if you don't beat County, then with the next game being Celtic, it's absolutely a kind of must win for Hearts going into that, and then having that foundation to build on. Interestingly, Motherwell and St Mirren play each other this weekend, so it could be a really, really positive weekend for Hearts, where if we can get 3 points and then either St Mirren beat Motherwell or there's a draw, and you're in a really good position going to Celtic Park, knowing that if lose there, which is likely given a record there, that it's not the end of the world, especially with United and Motherwell coming up. Yeah, Motherwell are definitely going to be a surprise, the surprise package of the four, just because of the new manager and completely different way they want to play. The good thing is look at two ways. Our record at Fir Park over the last over recent years has been really good. So this the away ground we've got most success at in terms of victories, going back to 2016. But the flip side, Hearts have, Laurie, we've not been very good at winning those games where we really need to win, and or the games where there's an opportunity there for Hearts to make a mark, and it's not one that we have been taking in the season. But to get into the top six is, I mean, there's different levels of this. It's more money. It could be upwards of. It could be as anything from 200 grand upwards of how much more you get from the league prize money, basing on the fact that it increases from last year. There is getting in the top six still allows Hearts to finish in the top five, which would potentially bring a European spot. And then you've also just got big fixtures. You're playing Aberdeen again, you're playing Hibs again, you've got both Old Firm and Dundee United, and it'll be the first time, only the second time since the split was introduced, where Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, Dundee United, Celtic and Rangers have all been in the top six as well. So it's
the big six.
The big six, so to speak. So I do think it's while the split in the top six and the bottom six is not everyone's cup of tea, I enjoy it, and I definitely think I would much rather be in that top six and battling about in the bottom six, especially if you were to lose that semi-final.
Yeah, I think there were a few arguments that if you're just squeezing at the top six into sixth place, that maybe Hearts are better not getting into it because you have tougher fixtures and you end the season on a bit of a lower point. But I think with the way Aberdeen and Dundee United have fallen off a little bit, I know it's allowed Hibs into third, but what it has meant is if we get into the top six, we will be in with a chance of getting into a European spot. Which one that will be, my feeling is fifth is going to be the most likely. If we get to the top six, fourth a possibility. I think third has disappeared. I think that disappeared with the game at Easter Road. That was our opportunity to close that. But that doesn't mean, even, and obviously the ideal scenario is Hearts win the Scottish Cup and we prevent Hibs or Aberdeen getting the group stage or league phase, as they call it now, with third. But that is going to require not even just a big game at Hampden against Aberdeen. It's going to require beating Celtic likely, and that is still going to be odds against us. But taking that away, if Celtic do win the cup, which is what the odds are in favour of, getting fourth or fifth means we're in European competition, and yeah, it's going to be a challenge to get to the league phase. But I think when we got fourth last time, it was PAOK that prevented us getting there, and I know we were comprehensively beaten, but a better Hearts side could have got through that. I think Aberdeen showed it when they played them in as the group stage it was then. So if you get a decent draw, if you get fourth or fifth and you can get the draw in your favour, there's still a chance of, and anyway, even if you can't get to the league phase, it's European football, it's extra money, and it's where Hearts want to be. So I think it's where we want to be. It's a big positive. You don't want to end the season with the highest possible finish of seventh. It'll be a bit of a downer, I think, as well, when you've got a cup semi-final coming up, that that you're bottom six. It'll take away a bit of the enthusiasm from supporters of what's left in the season. There'll be more pressure on Critchley and the team, I think. So absolutely, for me, a no-brainer that you want to be in the top six. And I think Graham's right. Yeah, I'm talking about if we win our home games, I'm going to be pretty confident going into that Motherwell game that we'll give ourselves a good shot. But we have to win the home games. I think if we don't win those home games against Ross County and Dundee United,
we don't deserve to be in the top 6.
We don't deserve to be in the top 6, quite frankly. Yeah.
And I'll just flash this up of interest, just because I was looking into it. This is the number of top 6 finishes since the split came into being in 2000-2001 season. It's done at 23 seasons rather than 24 because the COVID season was ended after 30, or the end of that one is ended after 30 games. So have you seen that Hearts have not unsurprisingly, the third most top 6 finishes, only one behind Rangers. Of course, they spent a few seasons outside the top flight, so that gives you a wee flavour of who has been successful in the top 6 or the split era. But yes, we'll leave it there. I'll just bring in a question from Tony Bloom, question that John's asked.
I asked from Tony Bloom. So.
Well, I wish. John Thompson's asked. I asked in the last podcast if Tony Bloom would still want to invest in Hearts. It's clearly a bottom 6 club. Joe reassured me it would still go ahead. I'm not so sure. Been a bit of back and forth with YouTube disciple. John did go say, if you're a billionaire just after investing in the best Australian club, I'm not sure it's class Millwall and Victory is the best. Do you have any interest in a bottom 6 Scottish club? I don't know the answer. Time will tell. All I'll say is this: is Tony Bloom won't be making decisions on one season at Hearts. He'll be looking at the potential that Hearts have as a club. He sees Jamestown and Tony Bloom, certainly Jamestown, they see Hearts as having massive potential, and they think that with their recruitment and their operation, they're able to help steer the club into being the third biggest in Scotland and challenging the old firm. Obviously, this is not going to happen overnight, but it's something that's certainly the longer term aim. And yeah, again, Tony Bloom is a shrewd businessman. I don't think he reacts to just a few poor results or a poor season. And the fact that, are we a bottom 6 Scottish club, as YouTube Disciple says, it's probably wait till the end of the season and see where Hearts are sitting. But no, I would... I'm very confident that Tony Bloom's not making his decision on the fact that Hearts are currently sitting 7th in the Scottish Premiership, having finished 3rd, 4th, 3rd in the 3 previous seasons. And then you look at I'll use a term, the potential and the size of the club. I think there's a lot going for Hearts from an infrastructure to kind of the direction that the club are moving. So hopefully that will be done sooner rather than later. But with Tony Bloom, he does a lot of things under the radar, so it will be a case of waiting and seeing. But yeah, confident that will go ahead sooner rather than later. Laurie, thank you very much for joining me. That was a very enjoyable 43 minutes. Apologies everyone for starting late. It was a mixture of me rushing around to get it ready and then technical issues, so apologies for that. I want to just add that I will not probably be next. Will next be back probably on Monday. Won't be a post-match show on Saturday. I don't think. I am. I'm on a stag do this weekend, and one of my best mates who is getting married is a Hearts fan, and his brother, who is also one of my mates, who's a Hearts fan, organised it for this weekend when Hearts are at home, and then I'll be missing the Dundee United game. The Motherwell game at Fir Park because of said wedding. So it's a real disaster in terms of planning. And then in between, I'll be missing the 2 games because I'm away on holiday. So hopefully by the time I'm back from all of this, Hearts will be a top 6 side, and we'll be looking ahead to a semi-final against Aberdeen. But yeah, there's questions need to be asked of the groom and the best man over planning purposes, but there's that's out of my hands. So there we go. But yes, thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice weekend when it comes. And hopefully the next time we are on this, we'll be discussing about a Heart Midlothian victory over Ross County.